Welcome back, and you're watching Commodity Champions. The CEO of National Rainfed Area Authority, Ashok Dalwai, now joins us. He's the man behind the blueprint of how farm income can be doubled by 2022. Dr. Dalwai, hi, thank you so much. We just heard what the Kisan Manch had to say about the kind of concerns that the farmers have and how the government, even as has been doing meetings with Niti Aayog, with states, etc. There are reports being submitted, but the farmers are still protesting. Why is it that there is still no urgency being shown towards formulating regulations at the earliest?
Yes, I can sense the urgency of the full report, but one of the terms of reference given to our committee was to parallelly make suggestions and recommendations to the government. And over the last 2 years since we have been working, we have made parallel recommendations, and a large number of them have been already adopted. And if you see the new budget or the recent budget of the union government, whether it is relating to marketing, whether it is relating to procurement or restructuring the export trade regime, all of those actually came from our report. So the community of the farmers and their stakeholders should rest assured that government has been working with the speed and with the integrity of doubling the farmers' income that it has set out to do.
Well, that point is well taken, Dr. Dalwai. But would you say that the process itself is taking a very long time? And then after this, I'm assuming the financial outlays will be worked as well. So how much more time would you see for all of this planning to really take on?
Yeah, we are now about to close our report, and I hope to complete this task by May, that means this month itself. And as regards the financial outlays, the ministry's budgetary allocations have already gone up substantively over the last 4 years. When we compare the 4 investments through the budgetary support to the preceding 4 years, we see a big jump. And what government has been doing is to support the budgetary allocations through the non-budgetary resources. So a large number of corpus funds have been created in the irrigation sector, in the marketing sector, livestock sector, and the fisheries sector. So the required investments are already happening. And our report has also worked out the correlation that exists between investments for gross capital formation and the growth rates needed to double the farmers' income. And we see a lot of opportunity for the private sector to come in. Normally, the private sector investments so far have happened from the farmers. In fact, 98% of the private sector investment has been coming only from the farmers, and the corporate sector has not played an important role. So various reforms that we have suggested and which already have been adopted now provide space and opportunity to the private sector. To illustrate, take the case of marketing. The new Model Marketing Act that we have shared with the state government now provides for creation of parallel APMCs in the private sector. It deregulates horticulture. It allows competition. So therefore, it enables the private sector to make investments. So likewise, through the new Contract Farming Act that we are going to introduce, or through the Land Leasing Act, or through the steady trade regime, these are all opportunities for the private sector to play the role. So the investments for gross capital formation will actually pick up with this policy framework that is facilitative of private sector participation, particularly in infrastructure and also the post-harvest management.
Dr. Dalwai, while of course the protest from the farmers is one important criteria here, but would you say that the elections in various states are yet another pressure point, in addition to the fact that we have a state and center government on the same page when it comes to implementation of this? How important would that be? Because while we have seen various agriculture schemes, the implementation of course has been a question mark. And in the recent, in the GST meeting before that, the agriculture minister also mentioned that much of almost 11 of the farm schemes would now be brought under one umbrella. How are we headed towards all of that?
Yes, I think you have said the right point that there can be always slips between the policy formulation, program designing and implementation. But the government's focus has been also on improving the speed and accuracy and the integrity of implementation. So we have advised the state governments to set up institutional mechanisms at the state level as also the district level, so that coordinated and concerted efforts happen across the stakeholders. Agriculture is not the subject only of the agriculture department, be it at the central level or the state level. Agriculture has a lot of support services that come from various departments like water resources, fertilizers, horticulture, etc. So now the institutional mechanism that we have suggested calls for all of them to sit together, and more importantly that the extension machinery has to improve. So we have also suggested for reorganizing the extension machinery, particularly in the context of improving the marketing efficiency. So as regards the implementation is concerned, there will be close monitoring from the center and from the state headquarters, and I can see a lot of enthusiasm among the state governments also, and government has always been very keen on introducing both long-term and short-term policy interventions, and the reforms that agriculture is actually now bringing out is from that perspective. And of course we would be keeping a close watch on the implementation right up to the end level. And you must have already appreciated how the central government has been sending large number of officers as Prabhari officers to different states and districts. It is of course not only for agriculture, but agriculture is one of the important subjects. There have been officers of the level of joint secretaries, directors and deputy secretaries going to different districts in the country with emphasis on more backward districts so as to help them catch up with the rest. So I'm sure this kind of close coordination between the central government and the state government will help in improving the quality of implementation. We're also planning to set up a dashboard so that we'll be able to monitor closely the various physical and financial outlays and also the reforms that it actually is speaking about.
Well, that's a fair point. But Dr. Dalwai, also we do keep talking about productivity, input cost, marketing, risks involved, etc. But even as productivity has seen an increase in case of many crops, like sugar is a recent example, it hasn't really benefited either the mills or the cane farmers for that matter. Would you say that there is a huge need perhaps for an integrated approach?
I agree with you that productivity increases alone do not bring about an increase in the income of the farmers. In fact, what we are now talking about is that transition from just green revolution based technology to income based approach, because green revolution technology talks mostly about productivity improvements, but what we are talking about today is farmers' income revolution or income approach to agriculture, which will capture productivity, cost of production, rationalization and monetization of the produce. So it takes into account all the segments of the agricultural value system from one end to another. So certainly productivity alone is not important. However, we also need to catch up on the productivity front, because when we compare our productivity levels in various crops and agriculture segments with the global standards, we are much below. So therefore, we need to improve our productivity, that is grow more from less of resources. That itself will actually help the farmers, but the importance has to be on monetizing. Therefore, the post-harvest management, which includes agri-logistics, processing as well as marketing, including exports, would be the key transformation that will help the farmers to realize better prices, gain more incomes and therefore help themselves to achieve higher standards of welfare.
Well, absolutely. Value addition, monetization, increasing farmers' income and also an integrated approach are the hour of the need when we look at our agrarian crisis, which has much been on the higher side from various states. Dr. Dalwai, thank you so much for joining us with all of that sense. With that, it's completely out of time on this edition of Commodity Champions. Thank you for watching.